All right, it is a little past 6 p.m., so I'll go ahead and get the meeting started. Good evening and welcome to the public information session for the Harris Mill Road Morrisville Fire Station project, slated to start construction in the spring of 2022. My name is Ruel Hayden, Public Information Officer with the town of Morrisville. I am joined by Scott Criddle, Chief of the Morrisville Fire and Rescue Department, Kim Clark, Construction Manager with Edifice, our general contractor, Gina Moore, Principal with ADW Architects, and Kimberly Conley with the Morrisville Public Works Department, specializing in sustainable technology and efficiency. They will be presenting you with a high-level overview of the purpose of the new fire station at this location, station details and normal operations, the construction timeline and schedule, and the station's design. At the end of their presentations, we will provide you with a location to get project details and updates as they are made available to the public. Finally, we will answer a few questions asked regarding the project and open up to questions from you through the chat. Feel free to submit those questions through the chat, and at the end of the presentation, we will circle back to them. Without further ado, I will hand it over to Chief Criddle. Chief?
Okay, Ruel. Well, thank you for the introduction. If you would advance the slides to one more. So in general, the idea for adding another fire station is to improve service. The closer we can have a fire unit to every location, the more likely we are to be able to provide a better outcome in the event that you have an emergency. So ultimately, all the time, whenever we place a fire station, it's to improve the distribution of our units and improve outcomes. This particular opportunity also allows us the opportunity to relocate a unit that is currently co-located with Cary Fire Department out at Fire Station 7. So we do have some county responsibility. It is a paid for service contract, and we have a unit out there that's co-located with Cary Fire Station 7. But we do have a seamless response set up with the Cary Fire Department that would allow us to improve the overall system distribution by relocating that unit into town, which benefits town. Normally, when you add a fire station, you would end up adding a company at the very least, and in this instance, we won't have to do that. We'll go to the next slide. So some of the station details. The station's going to be located at 1021 Harris Mill Road, just off McCrimmon Parkway. That is it's really off of McCrimmon Parkway between Davis Drive and Town Hall Drive. We have acquired 6.3 acres of land to construct a new fire station. We're going to use approximately 2.5 acres of it, and the remaining will be available for other uses, but those uses haven't yet been determined. Next slide. So currently, the building has been designed. It's been moved into construction drawing phase, and we landed at around 15,700 square feet with two double deep bays, office space for the work that's done there, living space, and personal quarters. It's currently built for 9 staff, and we'll talk about staffing in a little bit, but it is built for some future expansion. It's built to have a battalion chief stationed there, and there is an additional half deep bay for EMS, and there'll be some dedicated EMS space. The overall project will include a bunch of landscaping to make it compliant with the UDO and for the appearance to be proper. And like I said, we are just coming out of the design phase with this, and we are getting ready to work in, I think we've already applied for the permits, so construction drawings are actually drawn at this point. Next. So we're going to talk a little bit about fire station operations. These are probably some of the most popular questions that we would expect. The call volume out of this particular station at the moment, you're going to have, right now we're proposed to have 1 fire unit, a battalion chief, a ladder truck, a battalion chief, and there's a Wake County ambulance proposed to go there. I don't have the exact data on the call volume of the Wake County EMS unit, but they are very busy. But with that, oftentimes I will say that they do not initiate as many calls from the station as you would expect with as busy as they are, because a lot of times they receive their calls while they are returning from other calls or trying to clear from their last run. The fire unit that would respond out of that station will have relatively light call volume. It's hard to predict exactly because they're going to be moving out of a more rural area and they're going to come into town. So some of the volume that comes out of that station will be taken off of Station 2 and Station 1 respectively, but we expect there to be really no more than 2 to 3 calls per day on average. Now, that's a difficult thing. Some days they might not run a call in a day, or they might run 6 or 8 calls in a day. There is no telling, but on average, we're expecting 2 to 3. And the good news really is with most of our calls throughout our district really is that most of them happen during the daylight hours. We can go to the next slide. Routine activities that happen in a station, obviously we put a premium on being ready for calls. So every single day our equipment's checked. Our shift transfers around 7 o'clock, and that's, just shortly after that, the crew that's coming on will make sure that the truck runs, it pumps, and all the systems operate. So there will be a brief system check in the morning. Daily, all the tools will be checked. However, most of that happens, just a while after the original shift change. The trucks will be washed. Training will happen daily there. A lot of times the training that we do will require the use of the ladder or the truck's pump, so the truck will have to run. But the training that creates any noise would typically happen during the middle of the day, and to be quite honest with you, it would not generate any real significant noise beyond your standard background. And especially if you live in Morrisville, we have a lot of standard background. Planes, trains, and automobiles all the time. If you're outside trying to communicate, you're familiar with it. But I would say that the presence of the fire station and the general duties would not even approach that level of noise, not even close. Next slide. So fire department staff that we're expecting in the beginning, although it is built for future expansion, we anticipate one ladder company to be stationed there with 4 people at its regular staffing, 1 battalion chief, which will ride an SUV type of quick response vehicle, and then 1 2-person ambulance company. Now there will be some spare apparatus there, but that'll be the primary staffing at the station. However, like I said, the station is designed in case, the call volume in the area increases. We were hoping to get a good 50 or more years out of this building. We wanted to make sure it was expandable. And many times, like Fire Station 1 currently has 2 companies. This building is built for that, to handle 2 companies up to 4 people each, plus the battalion chief and the EMS unit. So it's built for some future development. Fire staff typically work a 24-hour shift, living at the station during their workday. There are bedrooms, kitchens, laundry facilities. Most of the time, our staff get to sleep, and in the beginning of the station's life cycle, it's anticipated they will sleep sometimes through the night. Sometimes they're going to get up 2 or 3 times a night, but yes, they do. They live out of the station. So the good news for that is that they're only going to come and go once a day, at least to come to work. And for now, it's a pretty limited number of them. The EMS crew, however, they work 12-hour shifts. The volume at EMS is much busier. And like I said, despite the fact that they're anchored here, whenever they do get a chance to return to their home base, we will be where they come. However, it's not super often that ambulance is at the station. I don't anticipate that just because they're busy that you're just going to see an ambulance zipping in and out of there. And by the way, it seems like every time they run, it's a long time. It takes a long time to get to a patient, treat patient, transport to the hospital. And then recently they're having a really hard time, getting a patient discharged to the hospital. So each one of their runs is a significant amount of time. So, just from a living around a fire station or around a station standpoint. I don't think they're going to be that evasive. All right, next slide. So typical traffic, obviously we're gonna have a few runs a day. I don't expect that to be very many in the beginning. Obviously, as the town grows, the volume will continue to grow out of that station. So you got the emergency runs. The battalion chiefs switch, that's gonna be 2 people, 1 in, 1 out, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, give or take, around 6:30. And then the 4 people that work there will come in probably between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. And then the 4 that are being relieved will probably skedaddle out of there really quick after 7, unless they got some reason to hang around. But so a little bit of traffic, really not much considering the volume that road should be able to handle. Emergency runs, obviously, and then occasional administrative trip, running the mail, delivering goods and supplies. And then occasionally at a station like that, our members will collect, train together. You know, station 1 might come to station 3 and they may train collaboratively. They train better in a group environment. But most of the times that training will happen behind the fire station and really take advantage of a lot of the noise barriers and not be as much of a distraction. They try to get back where they're not super visible and creating a big distraction. So it's not always, but typically. Next slide. You know, the biggest thing we're going to hear over and over again is noise, and we respect that. You know, one of the trade-offs to having a fire truck in your backyard is having a fire truck in your backyard. We are close to you. We can help mitigate an emergency relatively quickly, but yes, there is some noise involved. What we can do to help that is, honestly, when they're checking off equipment, we can ask them to do it behind the building for the most part. We can ask them to be respectful around the morning time when they're running the sirens. Most of our sirens that we run that you think of mostly are, they elevate and they come down. Just to check them off, we don't have to wind them all the way up and be super loud. So we can mitigate that in a behavioral way, you know, and to be honest with you, we are in other, you know, we're in communities and we do not very often receive any noise complaints. I mean, I've been the fire chief for around 3 years now, and I have not yet once received a noise complaint from, you know, fire crews winding up sirens early in the morning. So I do, however, understand that that's a concern, but fire stations are in neighborhoods all the time. Now, we're hoping that the benefit is well worth it to you. We're hoping we're not very invasive, but you know, if you live in proximity where noise is actually a concern, the trade-off should be that if you actually have an emergency, you get a very, very quick response and you get the best possible chance of a good outcome. So when we're running emergency traffic, we try to use a minimal amount of siren. That is the primary noise making equipment, air horn. But that is always really directly tied to the amount of traffic that they encounter. At night, when people are typically sleeping, when noise will typically bother them, there's really not a lot of need for a lot of air horn and sirens. So, you know, if crews are obnoxious with it and it's, you know, repeated over and over again, you know, we can work on that from a behavioral standpoint. We expect them to be respectful and to be responsible with the use of the equipment. So, and then, you know, most of the training is really going to be daylight. Not all of it, but most of it's going to be daylight. It is really not something I would expect you even notice is going on from a noise perspective, especially during the day. Next slide. Was this me or am I continuing on real well? You're muted.
Yes, this section.
Okay. All right. So just in the beginning of November, during the election, we received a Geo Bond, or permission to pursue a bond. And for the portion that's dedicated to this project is $8 million. And if you need any more information on this, I would suggest that you see the full amount of information available at the link provided there. townofmorrisville.org/MSVBOND2021. Next slide.
All right, thank you very much, Chief. And now we'll pivot to the fire station construction covered by Edifice and ADW. Tim?
Okay, if you want to advance the presentation, Ruel, thank you. My name is Tim Clark. I'm with Edifice. I'm the construction manager, and been working in with the town for many months now. This was procured with a design build method, so we have partnered with ADW Architects. Gina Moore has represented them and throughout this project as a lead designer and chief coordinator, and I think she is on the presentation, but if not, I will do my very best to cover for her. But what I can tell you about ADW is that they are the very best in the business at designing fire stations. They have won many awards at a national level for their fire station design and their innovation. And they have approached this with great fervor and a continued emphasis on the things that are important to Chief Criddle and thus to the general population of Morrisville, which is fast response times. That is their primary concern, but also designing a building that really sort of fits within the landscape of the neighboring properties. I will talk a little bit about sort of our approach and our timeline. As Chief Criddle had pointed out, we are going towards the end of the design phase of the project, and we will enter into, and we are also in the midst, sort of in the middle of a permitting process. We are entering a bidding phase of the project as well, and that will conclude in the late winter, early spring of 2022, and the project is scheduled to be fully complete in about 1 year. Well, if you want to, so you can see this sort of graphically, our anticipated time where, as I said, we're growing close to the end of the design phase. We are square in the middle of permitting and have made it through the site permitting effort. So all of the UDO requirements and the boxes have been checked, and we are in for building review. So currently working through that process, and we are getting ready to pursue the bidding phase. So if any of the folks that are on the call are interested in bidding, there are links available within the Town of Morrisville website that will allow you to get in touch with Edifice. We do have our pre-construction manager, Cody Treese, on the line as well. Either him or our pre-construction administrative lead, Jessica Poblate, will be the primary contact if you're interested in bidding it. And as I said, we are gearing up to start construction in the spring of 2022 and turn over at about a year from that point. One of the focuses that we really put a lot of emphasis on when we're constructing buildings that are close to residential areas is being a good neighbor. We're going to be very deliberate when we think about how we're going to build the project and how that affects our neighbors. In a minute, we'll show you a logistics plan, which is sort of our forward thinking about what the project may appear like and how it may function. And the overriding theme of that logistics plan is how to be a good neighbor to our to everybody that's within, you know, an earshot of our project. And what we've found over the years is that the very best way to evaluate how to be a good neighbor is measured by how we affect the 5 senses. So seeing and hearing, even touch and taste, are things that we try to manage. We try to think with the end in mind and how it's going to affect you. So whether that's our screen fence that's going to keep separated from our residents, keep not only our staff on site doing their work and not entering places where they should be, but I would imagine there's plenty of children in the area, and that fence is going to keep them safe, keep them off an inherently rather dangerous area with equipment moving around, a lot of heavy things that could get them in danger. So we are very mindful about managing that. We will put a lot of signage up to let everybody know about the hazards that are on our site. We'll work diligently to keep dust and debris from leaving the site. The fence helps largely with that, keeping the ground when we're moving earth, keeping it moist so that it's not creating a dust cloud and, you know, developing that sort of nauseous or nasty kind of film that develops on, you know, in your nose and can be off-putting. And just all of these strategies are used so we minimize the impact that we have to the neighbors during construction. So that's the approach that we take in being a good neighbor. And here's our logistics plan. So I know this may look a little bit foreign to a lot of folks. The red dashed line is what we plan to install, where we plan to install our fence. It will be screened to, you know, to just keep curious minds, keep their eyes off of the construction site. We will secure that daily. With this project, there's a driveway that is to be constructed that is also shown as our primary entrance. So we have to work through some timing on that, but the takeaway from that is, or from this depiction, is that we plan on coming into and off of the site off of McCrimmon Parkway. Rather than driving through the bulk of the neighborhood, we plan on directing all of our construction traffic, all of our heavy deliveries coming off of McCrimmon Parkway to mitigate the noise or you know, the nuisance of a lot of traffic coming through a neighborhood. All right, and Gina, are you able to share? And if not, I'll try and pick it up as best I can.
Yeah, Tim, I don't see her on. Okay,
so I'm going to give this my very best shot, but so the site, as everyone is aware, or maybe not, is located right off of Harris Mill Road, very close to McCrimmon Parkway. It is a several acre site. We are developing about half of that property with a hope that there is the ability to develop the remainder down the road. The fire station and the EMS component are roughly about 16,000 square feet. There'll be dual entry for the fire trucks so that they don't have to back up into the apparatus bay, that they can make a full pull through to the apparatus bay, which should help with traffic flow as well as keep the building pretty safe. That's a big piece of equipment to get in and out of a building, and you could imagine backing that up, it's fairly precarious. There will be some amenity areas that in this plan, there will be a wet pond constructed, which will handle our storm water. We'll keep all the storm water basically on site and treat it so that we're not overwhelming the infrastructure of the city. And there's some intentionality in the landscaping around that pond and what we may offer to the public so that they may be able to spend some time on nice days in the area, taking a break from the struggles of the everyday life. All right. The floor plan, I'll just keep it fairly simple. As I had said, there is a real primary focus in fire station design in how quickly the firemen at whatever level they are at or whatever location within the building they are standing or sleeping, that when they are when they are alerted to be on call, that they can get to a piece of equipment and out the door as fast as possible. So you'll see that everything in sort of the orangish color is represented by area that will be occupied almost solely by the fire department. The areas in green are sort of shared spaces between the Wake County EMS facility and the fire department, and the blue spaces will be dedicated to the EMS folks from Wake County. There's also in the design a safe haven for people in distress at the front lobby where they may be able to approach the building and find a bit of safety there in the event of an emergency. But all that I'll spare you the details, but we also look at these facilities in a mindset where, you know, the gentlemen that are and ladies that are serving the community, they live there for a great portion of their lives. So not only do we look at it from all the needs of the service portion of it and what they have to do to keep the community safe, but we also want to give them the opportunity to relax when they have when they're afforded that time during their day. All right. So as you can see, the vast majority of the fire station component in orange is really dedicated to sort of that comforts of home. Bedrooms, modestly planned with some ability to store some of their private, you know, belongings, clothes, maybe some things to bring the comforts of home into the workplace. So when they do have the chance to relax, they can. But also the place that keeps all the firemen happy, the large kitchen where they can fellowship together and enjoy meals, build the camaraderie that's necessary to an effective team. Of course, the apparatus bay being the showpiece of every fire station is located in the center. I think Chief Criddle mentioned to me the other day, hopefully I'm not overstepping my bounds, but they do host a good bit of open houses. So that's where, you know, I remember bringing my child into the fire station, and when they walked into the apparatus bay, just oohing and ahhing at all the neat equipment and the fire trucks. So we put a lot of focus in not only the design, but the construction of that to make sure everything looks nice and neat, very clean construction, so that you folks as the community residents can have that same experience and share that. Again, the EMS areas serves very much the same purpose as the fire station. It does have some refuge and area for those folks that will, you know, reside there for a portion of their lives. Okay. And I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly, who is assisted with some sustainability initiatives for the town.
Thank you, Tim. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Conley. I am the Sustainability Coordinator for the town of Morrisville. And I'm pleased to share with you some of the sustainability initiatives that we're currently planning for Fire Station 3. Town council and town leadership were instrumental in approving these items and have therefore demonstrated their commitment to sustainability. So before we move off this initial slide, I did want to mention a partnership that we've had with Duke Energy. They provide energy design assistance through a subcontractor called Willdan. And what they do is they basically modeled the energy for Fire Station 3 and made a host of different recommendations for creating a fire station that's as energy efficient as possible. So we've incorporated many of those recommendations. Those recommendations were done at no cost through our partnership with Duke Energy. They will lead to operational efficiencies, as in our utility costs will be lower, and our greenhouse gas emissions will also inherently be lower. So next slide, please, Ruel. So as Chief Criddle mentioned, you know, fire stations are 24/7, right? They are using a lot of energy. And so we wanted to make sure that we could offset some of that energy by incorporating a solar array. The array that you're looking at here on the screen is on our fire station number 1. This was the town's first renewable energy project. It's a 30 kW array, and it offsets the electricity that fire station uses by about 30 to 35%. So it is our plan to do something similar with fire station number 3. This fire station 1 that you're looking at has an offset for GHG emissions of about 20 metric tons. So we're able to, you know, obviously use renewable energy and reduce our emissions into the environment. So those are very important aspects to this project. Next slide, please. So talking about EV infrastructure, so I just read an interesting factoid. So we know that EV adoption is on the rise, right, in our country, our state, our region. The number of EVs is projected to reach 18.7 million by 2030, and that's up from 1 million in 2018. So that very clearly tells us that we need to increase our EV charging infrastructure. So we are planning to incorporate 2 charging stations at fire station number 3. Next slide, please. And finally, the other key project I wanted to touch on tonight is building automation systems. So what you're looking at here on the screen is actually a dashboard from the solar project on Fire Station 1 that we looked at a couple of slides ago. This helps us to understand what is that system producing. This is actually going to be accessible to all of our residents here shortly. We're going to put it on our open data portal. So you see that there, and then on the right-hand side, you see a Wi-Fi thermostat. So in essence, building automation allows us to control all of the different facets of lighting, energy, electricity, and have it come to one central location so that our facilities folks can, in real time, make decisions and optimize these systems for comfort, for efficiency, for conservation. So we're really excited about building automation. We're actually incorporating it into other projects across town as well. Next slide, please. Thank you.
All right. Tim, would you like to take the next portion. This is the physical location of the 2B Harris Mill Fire Station at 1021 Harris Mill Road. You can see that in relation to McCrimmon Parkway. This is an aerial view.
Sure. Yeah.
Tim, would you like to take the digital renderings?
You bet. Okay, so again, I'll try and do my very best Gina impression here. So as we vetted through the options for the fire station, one of the things we look at is a building that's going to last 50 years. Architects design buildings with that in mind, whether it is really intended to be a building that may only be around for 20 years. They can take some shortcuts in its structure and the materials used to construct it. This building is meant to be one of those landmark buildings that's going to be around and utilized for its intended purpose for quite a while. So we want to build it very stout. We have elected to use some block construction coupled with a steel structure to develop the frame. Used very robust and long-lasting materials in masonry and cast stone to develop a very nice veneer. And it serves as sort of that, what I think they landed on, a sort of transitional look. It's not a completely traditional style from an architecture perspective, but it's also not very modern, as you're seeing a lot of buildings that are built with metal panels and very whites and gray, black materials. It sort of spans that gap a little bit. They have very nice bifold door or fourfold doors on them, which not only does it provide a very nice aesthetic, which are represented in the photograph, but it also increases turnout time. So it allows for Chief Criddle to mobilize his units as fast as possible and as safely as possible.
All right, thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. So with that, that is our list of presentations from our experts on this project. We're going to move into our FAQs and questions from the audience. We've got a couple here, frequently asked questions that I'll ask out loud for the presenters. First of all, how do I get involved in the project? Who would like to take that one?
I can take that one, Ruel. So I'm Cody Treese, pre-construction manager with Edifice. I've been working on this project for several months now. So the way to get involved in this one, I think Tim had mentioned earlier, there's a link through the town of Morrisville's website that would put you in touch with us. And please feel free to contact us to get information about the job if you're interested in bidding. Our bid process will start in January. We have it set up in two separate parts, so there are formal packages and informal packages. The formal packages do require a pre-qualification packet to be submitted, so you can get in touch with us for that information. We also have a subcontractor outreach session tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. So if you're interested in attending that to learn more about the bidding process, the pre-qualification process, just kind of how it's going to happen, feel free to reach out to us tonight, in the morning, whatever, and we'll be happy to get you guys involved in that.
Very good. Thank you, Cody. Another frequently asked question we get is, what will traffic look like during construction, i.e., how will it impact traffic? Who would like to take that one?
I'll field that. our goal is to not impact traffic at all, but inherently we're going to probably be moving somewhere in the neighborhood. I think when we peak out, it'll probably be about 50 workers into that building, probably at our max capacity of a building of that size. We'll probably top out around 50. Some of those folks will have shared vehicles. Most of our staff and the subcontracting staff, they bring their lunch in the day. So generally, we work from 7 a.m. until we'll keep the doors open, the gates open until about 5. So for the most part, our folks will arrive at the site between 6:30 and 7, and they tend to leave at various times anywhere from 3:30 to 5. So when you really think about it in those terms and those numbers, the amount of traffic is not significant. And what we will commit to is that we'll do our very best to coordinate job site deliveries for an appropriate time so that they're not delivering to the site at peak rush hour hours. We try to avoid that so that they're entering the site at a time where it's not a disruption to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Tim. All right. So, and as previously mentioned, we do have a number of locations for you to get additional information for project details and updates on the fire station. You can visit thetownofmorrisville.org/Harris Mill Fire Station, all one word. And you can also submit your questions and comments to fs3@townofmorrisville.org, or you can call 919-463-6999 and leave a message there, and someone will get back to you regarding your question or comment. I'd like to thank all the participants and everyone who's joined this call in the community for joining this virtual information session, and look forward to providing you with future updates. Have a great night. Thank you.